When you think about global influence, economically, culturally, militarily, the United States is, well, impossible to ignore. But have you ever stopped to think about how that happened? How a small collection of colonies became the world's leading superpower in just a couple of centuries? That's the story we're diving into.
Right, that's the big question. How did one nation get to be so influential? We're going to unpack the key events, the big ideas, and, those pivotal moments that really changed everything. And you might be surprised to find that the core of the story is simpler than you think.
So here's our roadmap. Our journey starts way back in the 1700s with a really powerful idea. That idea then lights the fuse for a massive industrial explosion. Then a world war comes along and completely transforms the global order, which brings us all the way to the digital age we're living in right now. Okay, so let's start with that first, crucial piece of the puzzle. How a set of ideas became the fuel for an economic engine that would, quite literally, change the world. You see, America's foundation wasn't really built on factories. It was built on principles. This promise of freedom, the freedom to create something, to own your ideas, was a huge deal. It acted like this giant magnet, pulling in ambitious thinkers, scientists, and innovators from all over the world. And this flood of human talent, it would become the nation's most valuable resource. And all that energy, all those people, it fueled a pretty breathtaking transformation. I mean, think about it. The America of the 1800s was mostly a young, agricultural country. But by the early 1900s, it was an industrial titan, covered in factories, connected by a web of railroads, and producing so much steel it just dwarfed its rivals. So, by the time World War I wrapped up, the foundation was set. America's economic engine was already roaring, making it one of the most powerful economies on the planet. But the next global conflict? Well, that was going to kick things into an entirely different gear. And that brings us to what is arguably the single biggest turning point in this whole story, World War II. This war didn't just redraw maps, it completely rewired the entire global balance of power. And here is the absolute key difference. While the industrial centers of Europe and Asia were just devastated, the US mainland was basically untouched. Being an ocean away from the fighting turned out to be this incredible, monumental advantage. So far from being destroyed, American industry went into overdrive. The US literally became the arsenal of victory. At its peak, it was churning out more military gear than all the other Allied and Axis powers combined. Just think about that. This massive industrial effort not only helped win the war, but it left America with this unmatched manufacturing powerhouse when peace finally came. Okay, so with its factories intact and its economy booming, the US was in the perfect spot to lead the world's recovery. And the key to that leadership was creating a whole new global economic system, one that was centered on a single thing. And that one thing was the US dollar. In a world that was desperate for some kind of stability, the dollar, backed by America's massive economy, was really the only choice. It was made official in 1944, and the dollar became the world's primary reserve currency, the new anchor for all of global trade. So what did this actually mean in practice? Well, for decades, if you wanted to buy oil on the world market or trade goods internationally, or if you were a central bank just looking for a safe place to park your money, you used US dollars. This put America right at the very heart of the global economy. But hey, American influence didn't just stop with factories and finance. In the second half of the 20th century, whole new frontiers of power started to open up: technology and culture. And this created this incredible innovation pipeline. You had post-war tech leadership, things like the microchip, satellites, even the government-funded creation of the internet, which set the stage for the explosion of Silicon Valley. At the same time, Hollywood became the world's storyteller, beaming American culture, music, movies, fashion to every corner of the globe. And that brings us to today. Modern American power is this really complex mix. It's the economic might and military alliances, what people call hard power, but it's combined with the massive influence of its technology and its culture, which is often called soft power. So when you take a step back, the picture becomes pretty clear, right? The journey started with this core idea of freedom that attracted the world's talent. That talent then fueled incredible innovation. And a pivotal moment in history, World War II, gave it the opportunity to take on global leadership. And this really nails the reality of American influence today. It's not just about raw strength anymore. It's about creativity, technology, and culture. And that brings us right up to the present. You know, the things that defined a superpower in the 20th century, like industrial might and economic control, they're all changing. In a world that's facing totally new challenges, you have to wonder, what's it going to take to be a superpower in the 21st century?